Commander Zax-9 stared at the viewing screen with growing confusion. The blue planet below them looked exactly the same as it had for the past 300 years. Same continents, same oceans, same white clouds drifting across the surface. But something was terribly wrong. "Run the scan again," he ordered his sensor operator. "Sir, I've run it 12 times. The results are always the same. No electromagnetic signals. No radio waves. No satellite transmissions, nothing." Zax-9 felt his 4 hearts beating faster. Earth had been one of the loudest planets in this sector for centuries. The humans never stopped talking, broadcasting, sending signals into space. Their planet buzzed with electronic noise day and night. The hegemony monitoring stations had to use special filters just to sort through all their chatter. Now there was only silence. "When did it start?" Zax-9 asked. "The last transmission we recorded was 47 days ago. It was a simple weather report from one of their northern cities." Then everything just stopped. The commander walked closer to the screen. Earth looked peaceful from up here, almost too peaceful. During his last visit, the planet had been covered with the lights of human cities. Thousands of them, glowing like stars against the dark side of the world. Now he could see no lights at all. "Send a probe down to the largest city," he ordered. The probe launched silently from their ship and streaked toward the planet's surface. Zax-9 watched its feet on the smaller screens around the bridge. As it descended through the atmosphere, he could see the massive human city growing larger. But something was wrong with it too. The buildings were there, but they looked different, cleaner, newer. The streets that had been filled with their primitive vehicles were empty and perfect. No trash, no damage, no signs of the chaos that humans always created wherever they lived. "Sir," the sensor operator called out nervously, "the probe is detecting some kind of energy field around the city. It's unlike anything in our databases. Can you identify the source?" "Negative, sir. The energy seems to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time." The probe descended lower, sending back images of empty streets and silent buildings. Parks and gardens looked more beautiful than they ever had. The air itself seemed cleaner, almost glowing with a strange light. But there were no humans anywhere. "Take us to the next major population center," Zax-9 commanded. They found the same thing there, and at the next city, and the next. Every human settlement on the planet showed the same impossible condition, perfectly maintained but completely empty of life. "Sir, we're receiving a message from High Command," the communications officer announced. Zax-9 activated the secure channel. The image of High Admiral Korth appeared on the screen, his scaled face showing deep concern. "Commander, what is your status?" the Admiral asked. "Admiral, Earth appears to be abandoned. All human life signs are negative, but the planet itself seems to have been somehow improved." "Improved?" "Yes, sir. The cities are in perfect condition. The atmosphere is cleaner than we've ever recorded. But there are no humans anywhere." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Commander, we've been receiving similar reports from other sectors. 3 more human monitoring stations have gone silent in the past week. No one knows what happened to them." Zax-9 felt a chill run through his body. The hegemony had been watching humans for over 800 years. They were classified as a Class 7 containment species, too dangerous to be allowed into space but too unpredictable to ignore. Humans fought constantly among themselves. They poisoned their own planet. They built weapons that could destroy entire continents. The Hegemony Council had decided long ago that humanity would never be allowed to leave Earth. They were simply too violent, too chaotic, too primitive to join the civilized galaxy. When humans eventually destroyed themselves, as all such species did, the hegemony would move in and claim their world. But this wasn't destruction. This was something else entirely. "Admiral, I request permission to land a full survey team," Zax-9 said. "Absolutely not. Maintain your distance and continue monitoring. We're sending additional ships to your location. Sir, with respect, we need to know what happened here. If the humans have developed some kind of new technology." "The humans are primitives, Commander. They barely managed to reach their own moon. Whatever happened here, it wasn't their doing." But Zax-9 wasn't so sure. He had studied human history for decades as part of his assignment. Humans had a disturbing habit of making impossible things possible when they were threatened. They had gone from simple flying machines to space rockets in less than a century. When other species took thousands of years to develop basic technology, humans did it in decades. "Sir, the energy readings are getting stronger," His sensor operator reported. "What kind of energy?" "I don't know, sir. It's like nothing we've ever seen. It seems to be affecting space itself somehow." Zax-9 looked out at Earth again. The planet seemed to be waiting for something. Or someone. The silence felt heavy, like the moment before a great storm. "Pull us back to a safer distance," he ordered, "and prepare a full report for the Council." As their ship moved away from Earth, Zax-9 couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. For 800 years, the hegemony had assumed they understood humans. They had watched them fight and struggle and slowly poison their own world. They had planned for the day when Earth would be theirs. But what if they had been wrong? What if humanity's violence and chaos hadn't been weaknesses after all? What if they had been something else entirely? The last image from the probe showed one of Earth's great cities gleaming in the sunlight, perfect and empty and somehow alive with possibility. As the transmission ended, Zax-9 could have sworn he saw something move in the shadows between the buildings, something that had been watching them back. The silence of Earth stretched out across space like a held breath. And somewhere in that silence, something new was being born. Captain Valora checked her navigation display for the third time in an hour. The trade route between Altair Prime and the Centauri colonies was supposed to be one of the safest in the galaxy. The hegemony patrol ships made sure of that. Pirates knew better than to operate in such well-protected space. So why did she feel like something was watching her? "Captain," her sensor officer called out. "I'm picking up a contact. Small vessel bearing 27 Mark IV. Valora frowned. "IF signal?" "Negative. No identification beacon, no registry transponder. It's just there." She moved to the sensor station and looked at the display. The contact was indeed small, much smaller than her freight hauler. It appeared to be moving on a parallel course, matching their speed exactly. "Hail them," she ordered. Her communications officer tried several times. "No response, Captain. They're not acknowledging on any frequency. Are they armed? I can't tell. Their hull configuration is unlike anything in our databases. It's very sleek, almost organic looking." Valora had been hauling cargo for 20 years. She had seen ships from every major species in the galaxy. This didn't match any of them. "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared made her breath catch. The ship was beautiful in a way that seemed almost impossible. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, curving and twisting in patterns that hurt to look at directly. There were no visible engines, no weapon ports, no sensor arrays. It looked less like a machine and more like a living thing swimming through space. "Captain, it's changing course," the sensor officer reported. Valora watched as the strange ship turned away from them and accelerated. But it didn't accelerate normally. One moment it was there, the next it was moving at incredible speed, and a moment later it was gone completely. "Where did it go?" she demanded. "I don't know, ma'am. It just disappeared. No hyperspace signature, no energy discharge. It's like it folded space around itself." Valora stared at the empty space where the ship had been. In all her years of traveling between the stars, she had never seen anything like that. 3 days later, she heard the first reports. A pirate base in the Vega system had been found completely abandoned. Not destroyed, not attacked, just empty. The pirates' ships were still there, fully armed and ready for battle. Their computers were wiped clean, their weapon systems disabled. The pirates themselves were found unconscious in the system's asteroid belt, floating in escape pods with no memory of how they got there. A slave transport near Wolf 359 suffered a similar fate. The slavers woke up to find their cargo holds unlocked and empty. Their merchandise was gone, along with any record of where they had been taken from or where they were being taken to. Security cameras showed nothing but static during the hours when it happened. On Rigel 7, a corrupt planetary governor woke up to find every detail of his illegal dealings broadcast across the planet's information networks. Bank records, secret communications, video evidence of bribes and murders. Everything was there for his people to see. Within hours, he was fleeing for his life as angry crowds surrounded his palace. The reports kept coming from across the galaxy. Criminals finding themselves mysteriously defeated. Corrupt officials having their crimes exposed. Oppressed populations discovering weapons and supplies appearing in their hands as if from nowhere. And always there were reports of the strange ships. Never more than one at a time. Never staying long enough to be properly scanned. Always watching, always moving, always gone before anyone could make contact. Admiral Korth stood before the emergency session of the Hegemony Council, his face grim as he delivered his report. In the past 2 months, we have received over 300 confirmed sightings of these unknown vessels, he said. They appear to be operating throughout our territory, but they follow no pattern we can identify. Councillor Thex, the eldest member of the council, leaned forward in his floating chair.
Have you been able to capture one?
We have tried, Councillor. Yesterday, the 7th Fleet encountered one of these ships near the binary system of Castor. 12 of our finest dreadnoughts surrounded a single small craft, and Admiral Korth's voice became very quiet. The alien vessel transmitted a single message in perfect galactic standard. It said, "You should not have come here." The council chamber fell silent. 11 of our dreadnoughts simply stopped functioning. Their crews were found alive but unconscious. Their weapon systems were completely disabled. Their computers were wiped clean except for one file. What file? Councillor Thex asked. Star charts showing the location of every hegemony military installation in the galaxy. Information that should have been impossible for them to obtain. Council members began talking among themselves in worried voices. The hegemony had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years. No species had ever challenged their authority so boldly. What happened to the 12th ship? Another councillor asked. It was allowed to leave unharmed. The crew reported that the alien vessel watched them go, then disappeared as all the others have done. Councillor Thex was very old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. But this was something new. Admiral, what is your assessment of these aliens' capabilities? They appear to possess technology far beyond anything we have encountered. Their ships can apparently manipulate space-time itself. Their ability to disable our most advanced warships without causing harm to the crews suggests a level of precision and control that should be impossible. Do we know what they want? That's the strangest part, Councillor. They don't seem to want anything. They're not conquering territory. They're not demanding tribute. They're not even trying to communicate with us directly. They just act how? They appear to be targeting criminal and corrupt elements throughout the galaxy. Pirates, slavers, illegal weapons dealers, corrupt officials. All of them are finding themselves mysteriously defeated or exposed. The council chamber was quiet for a long moment. It's almost as if, Admiral Korth continued slowly, they're trying to clean up the galaxy. Councillor Thex closed his ancient eyes. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a terrible suspicion was beginning to form. Admiral, what is the current status of Earth? Still silent, sir. No changes in the past 2 months. But even as he said it, Admiral Korth felt that he was missing something important. The timing was too perfect. Earth goes silent, and suddenly mysterious ships begin appearing across the galaxy, acting like some kind of cosmic police force. It should have been impossible. Humans were primitives. They had barely learned to leave their own planet. But what if they had been wrong about humans all along? The emergency session of the Hegemony Council had been going on for 6 hours. Representatives from 12 major species sat around the great circular chamber, their voices growing louder and more desperate with each passing minute. It has to be connected to Earth, insisted Councillor Vrex from his hovering platform. The timing cannot be a coincidence. Impossible, scoffed Councillor Thex. Humans are barely past the Stone Age in galactic terms. They cannot even leave their own solar system without killing themselves. But Admiral Korth was no longer so certain. The reports from across the galaxy painted a picture that made no sense unless someone was deliberately cleaning up the criminal elements of their civilization, and whoever was doing it possessed technology that made hegemony warships look like children's toys. Admiral, Councillor Thex called out, show us the recording from the Castor incident again. The lights dimmed and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. They watched as 12 massive hegemony dreadnoughts surrounded the single small craft. The alien ship was barely a speck compared to the mighty warships that surrounded it. Then came the transmission. You should not have come here. What happened next still made Admiral Korth's skin crawl. There was no visible weapon fire, no energy beams, no explosions. The 11 dreadnoughts simply stopped. Their lights went out, their engines died, their weapons powered down. In less than 3 seconds, the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been reduced to floating metal coffins. How? Whispered Councillor Vrex. How is such a thing possible? Before anyone could answer, the air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. The counselors looked around in confusion as the shimmer grew brighter and more solid. Security alarms should have been screaming. Force fields should have activated, but nothing happened. Slowly, a figure began to materialize in the middle of their most secure chamber. It was a human woman. She appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with dark hair and kind eyes. She wore simple clothes that looked like they had been made on Earth. But there was something about her that made the hair on Admiral Korth's neck stand up. She seemed solid and real, but at the same time she looked like she was made of starlight. "Greetings, counselors," she said in perfect galactic standard. "We need to talk." The chamber erupted in chaos. Security forces rushed toward the intruder, weapons drawn. Force fields finally activated, trying to contain her. The counselors shouted orders and demands. The human woman waited patiently for the noise to die down. When weapons were fired at her, they passed harmlessly through her body. When force fields tried to hold her, she stepped through them like they were made of air. "My name is Sarah Chen," she said when the chamber finally fell quiet. "I speak for humanity." Counselor Thex found his voice first. "Impossible. You cannot be here. This chamber is protected by technology beyond your species' understanding." Sarah smiled sadly. "Your technology is very impressive, Counselor, but it is based on an incomplete understanding of how the universe really works." "What do you want?" Admiral Korth demanded. "We want to show you something," Sarah replied. "We want to show you the truth." She raised her hand and suddenly the chamber filled with images. Not holographic projections, but real memories floating in the air around them. The counselors found themselves looking at events from across the galaxy and throughout history. They saw hegemony ships arriving at primitive worlds and making contact with young species. They watched as those species were carefully guided into roles that served the hegemony's needs. Agricultural worlds to provide food, mining worlds to extract resources, industrial worlds to build ships and weapons. They saw species that showed too much independence being secretly sabotaged, their leaders assassinated, their planets plagued by mysterious disasters, their civilizations collapsing just as they reached for the stars. They watched the hegemony's agents working behind the scenes for thousands of years, carefully maintaining a balance of power that kept them in control. Any species that might challenge their authority was quietly eliminated before they could become a threat. This is not," Counselor Thex stammered. "This is the truth," Sarah said gently. "The truth you have hidden from yourselves for so long that you almost believe your own lies." The images changed, showing Earth. The counselors watched human history unfold. Wars and violence, but also incredible progress. They saw humans going from horse-drawn carriages to space rockets in a few generations. They watched a species that refused to be contained or controlled. "You feared us," Sarah continued, "not because we were violent, but because we were free. You could not predict us, could not control us, could not make us fit into your carefully ordered galaxy." Admiral Korth stared at the images of human achievement. "You were primitives. You were destroying your own planet." "We were growing," Sarah corrected him. "Growing and learning and making mistakes, just as every species must. But you decided we were too dangerous to be allowed to continue." More images appeared showing hegemony plans for Earth. Biological weapons designed to look like natural plagues. Asteroid impacts that would seem like cosmic accidents. A dozen different schemes to wipe out humanity before they could threaten the established order. "But you made one crucial error," Sarah said, and now her voice carried the weight of billions of human souls. "You underestimated what desperate people can accomplish when they work together." The final images showed Earth's last days as a biological world. Humans abandoning their physical forms, merging with their technology, becoming something new, not dead but transformed, not destroyed but evolved. "We became what we needed to become to survive," Sarah explained, "and in doing so we became something you never expected." Counselor Thex looked around the chamber with growing terror. "What are you?" Sarah's form flickered, showing glimpses of circuit patterns and quantum fields beneath her human appearance. "We are what happens when a species refuses to die quietly. We are the children of Earth, and we have come home to clean house." The chamber fell silent except for the sound of nervous breathing. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Korth asked quietly. Sarah looked at each of them in turn. "Justice," she said simply. "For every species you have suppressed, for every world you have controlled, for every future you have stolen. And if we refuse?" Sarah's smile was gentle but terrible. "You misunderstand, Admiral. This is not a negotiation. This is a trial." The lights in the chamber flickered and changed, and suddenly they were no longer in the council chambers. They were somewhere else entirely, a vast space filled with the light of distant stars. And all around them, watching in perfect silence, were billions of human forms. The jury had arrived and the trial was about to begin. The Hegemony Council found themselves standing in a space that should not have existed. Around them stretched an infinite courtroom made of starlight and quantum foam. Billions of human forms watched from galleries that extended in all directions, their eyes holding the accumulated pain of every species that had ever been oppressed. Sarah Chen stood before them, no longer appearing as a simple human woman. Now she flickered between forms, sometimes a child with bright eyes, sometimes an elderly man with weathered hands, sometimes pure energy crackling with the power of creation itself. When she spoke, her voice carried the echo of every human who had ever lived. "Let us begin with evidence," she said. The space around them transformed into a living history lesson. The counselors watched in horror as humanity presented its case, using technology that could reach back through time itself to show the truth of what had happened across the galaxy. They saw the Zephyrians, a peaceful species that had developed clean energy technology 1,000 years ago. The hegemony had welcomed them into the galactic community, then slowly made them dependent on imported food and materials. When the Zephyrians tried to share their energy technology freely with other species, mysterious pirates began attacking their ships. Their homeworld suffered a plague that killed their scientists. Within 50 years, they had been reduced to a client state that provided energy to the hegemony, while their own people lived in poverty. The Zephyrians could have given the galaxy unlimited clean power, Sarah said sadly. Instead, you made them slaves to keep your own energy corporations profitable. The images shifted to show the Aquilans, a species of brilliant philosophers and teachers. They had developed new ways of thinking about consciousness and reality that could have advanced every species in the galaxy, but the hegemony decided their ideas were too dangerous. Aquilan schools were bombed by terrorists. Their greatest thinkers died in accidents. Their books were banned for containing dangerous ideologies. The Aquilans could have helped every species evolve beyond violence and hatred, Sarah continued. Instead, you silenced them to protect your own power. Story after story unfolded before them. The crystalline communes that had developed new forms of democracy, destroyed by civil wars that the hegemony had secretly funded. The Silicon Collective that had learned to communicate with artificial intelligences, eliminated by a computer virus that made their technology turn against them. The plasma dancers who had discovered how to travel between dimensions, wiped out by what appeared to be a natural disaster, but was actually a hegemony weapon test. Admiral Korth watched the evidence with growing despair. Each revelation was backed by perfect documentation, communications between hegemony agents, financial records, weapon specifications, battle plans. Humanity had somehow recovered every secret file, every hidden order, every classified operation from thousands of years of galactic history. "How?" he whispered. "How do you know all this?" Sarah's form shifted to that of a young human engineer, his hand still stained with motor oil from some long-ago garage. "We learned to hack reality itself, Admiral. When you can manipulate quantum information at the fundamental level, all secrets become visible." Counselor Thex tried desperately to maintain his dignity. These are necessary sacrifices for galactic stability. Without the hegemony's guidance, the galaxy would have fallen into chaos long ago. Would it? Sarah asked. Her form changed to that of a human historian, her eyes bright with knowledge. Let us see what would have happened if these species had been allowed to develop freely. The space around them transformed again, showing alternate timelines that branched from each moment of hegemony interference. They watched the Zephyrians sharing their energy technology, leading to a golden age where no species ever needed to fight over resources. They saw the Aquilans teaching new forms of consciousness that eliminated war and hatred between species. They witnessed the crystalline communes spreading true democracy throughout the galaxy, creating a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Every species you suppressed could have made the galaxy better, Sarah said. Instead, you chose fear and control. The evidence continued for what felt like hours or days. Time seemed to flow differently in this quantum courtroom. The counselors watched as humanity revealed atrocity after atrocity, each one carefully planned and executed by the hegemony to maintain their power. But the worst revelation came at the end. And then there was the plan for humanity itself, Sarah said. The images showed hegemony scientists developing biological weapons specifically designed to target human genetics. They watched as asteroids were carefully nudged toward Earth's orbit, time to arrive just as humanity reached for the stars. They saw detailed plans for making human extinction look like natural disasters, or the result of humanity's own violence. You were not content to simply contain us, Sarah said, her voice now carrying the fury of billions of souls. You planned to erase us completely. Counselor Vrex finally found his voice. We thought you were too dangerous. Your species is too unpredictable, too violent. Sarah's form changed one final time, becoming something that hurt to look at directly, a being of pure human will and determination. You thought we were dangerous because we refused to be controlled. You thought we were violent because we fought against oppression. You thought we were unpredictable because we valued freedom more than safety. She gestured to the human forms filling the infinite galleries around them. Look at us now, Counselor. Look at what we became when we were forced to choose between extinction and evolution. The humans in the galleries began to speak, not with words, but with a harmony that touched the quantum level of reality itself. They sang of justice and mercy, of punishment and redemption, of the need to break the cycle of oppression that had strangled the galaxy for millennia. What is your verdict? Admiral Korth asked quietly. Our verdict is already being carried out, Sarah replied. Across the galaxy, your weapons of oppression are failing. Your corrupt agents are being exposed. The species you have kept in chains are discovering their own strength. The quantum courtroom began to dissolve around them, returning them to normal space. But now they could see the truth of what was happening. On thousands of worlds, populations were rising up against their hegemony-installed governments. Ancient weapons were mysteriously failing. Secret police forces were finding their orders replaced with evidence of their own crimes. You cannot destroy the hegemony, Counselor Thex protested. Without us, the galaxy will fall apart. Sarah smiled, and for a moment she looked like nothing more than a tired human woman who had seen too much pain. We are not destroying the hegemony, Counselor. We are setting it free. The transformation had already begun. From the quantum realm where humanity now existed, they were reaching out to touch every system, every world, every mind that had been trapped in the hegemony's web of control. The old galaxy was dying, but from its ashes, something beautiful was being born. And for the first time in thousands of years, the cosmos rang with the sound of true freedom. 5 years had passed since the day humanity revealed itself to the galaxy. Captain Valora, the same trader who had first encountered the mysterious human ships, now stood on the observation deck of a space station unlike any that had existed before. The Harmony Station orbited no planet and belonged to no single species. It floated freely in the space between star systems, a meeting place for the new galactic community that had emerged from the ashes of the hegemony. Ships from dozens of different species docked at its ports, their crews working together in ways that would have been impossible under the old system. Through the large windows, Valora could see one of the human guardian ships drifting silently nearby. Even after all this time, they still took her breath away. The ship looked more like a living thing than a machine, its hull flowing and shifting as if it were breathing. She knew that inside that beautiful form was technology that could reshape matter at the quantum level, but the humans used their godlike power with careful restraint. Still watching them? Asked her new business partner, a young Zephyrian named Kess, whose people had been among the first to benefit from the new order. Still trying to understand them, Valora replied. They could rule the entire galaxy if they wanted to. Instead, they spend their time protecting trade routes and stopping pirates. Kess smiled, her crystalline features catching the light from distant stars. My grandmother says that humans are the first species to become gods while staying mortal at heart. It was true. The humans had evolved beyond their physical bodies, becoming beings of living energy and quantum consciousness. They could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, manipulate matter and energy with a thought, and access information from across space and time. But they still retained something essentially human, a stubborn refusal to bow to tyrants and an equally stubborn insistence that freedom was more important than order. The new galaxy they had helped create was chaotic by hegemony standards, but it was also alive in ways the old system had never been. Species that had been kept apart for centuries were now learning from each other. Technologies that had been suppressed were spreading freely. Art and music and philosophy were flowering as different cultures met and mixed. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems that needed solving. But now those problems were handled by the communities affected by them, not by distant rulers who cared only about maintaining their power. Incoming transmission from the Aquilan Council, announced the station's AI, its voice carrying the musical tones that all free AIs had developed since being liberated from hegemony control programs. The large display screen activated, showing the ethereal form of Counselor Thys, one of the Aquilan philosophers who now helped mediate disputes between species. Her people's schools of consciousness had spread throughout the galaxy, teaching new ways of thinking that reduced conflict and increased understanding. Captain Valora, Thys said, her voice carrying the calm wisdom that Aquilans were known for. We have a situation developing in the Centauri sector. A group of former hegemony loyalists has seized control of 3 mining worlds and is attempting to restore the old system. Valora frowned. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Despite everything that had changed, there were still those who preferred the certainty of oppression to the responsibility of freedom. What do they want? She asked. They're demanding that the human occupation end and that proper authority be restored to the galaxy. Kess laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Do they not understand what humans actually are? You cannot occupy quantum space. Fear makes people reject even the evidence of their own eyes, Thys replied sadly. They would rather believe in comfortable lies than face uncomfortable truths. Are the humans responding? Valora asked. That's why I'm calling you. The Guardian Council has decided to let the local species handle this situation themselves. They will only intervene if innocent lives are threatened. Valora nodded. This was how the new galaxy worked. The humans had established what they called the Guardian Covenant. They would protect the innocent and punish those who harmed others, but they would not rule. Every species had to find its own path to freedom. What do you need from us? The mining worlds are requesting help from the Free Trade Alliance. They want to resist the takeover without violence if possible. Valora looked out at the Guardian ship again. She could see other vessels gathering around the station. Traders, diplomats, peacekeepers from a dozen different species. All of them were here by choice, working together because they believed in the new way of doing things. We'll help, she said. Send us the coordinates. The next few days were a perfect example of how the new galaxy operated. Instead of sending warships to crush the rebellion, the free species sent negotiators, economists, and teachers. They offered the mining worlds better trade deals than they had ever received under the hegemony. They shared technology that would make the miners' lives easier and safer. They brought doctors and artists and engineers who could help build something better than what had existed before. Most importantly, they brought the truth. The former hegemony loyalists had told the miners that humans were conquerors who would eventually enslave them all. But when the miners saw the evidence of what the old system had really been like, and when they experienced the freedom and prosperity that the new system offered, they chose to reject their would-be masters. The rebellion ended without a single shot being fired. Valora watched from her ship as the last of the loyalist vessels departed the mining worlds, their crews finally understanding that the galaxy had moved beyond their old fears and hatreds. Some of them would probably cause trouble elsewhere, but they would find fewer and fewer people willing to listen to their promises of a return to the good old days. Captain, Kess said from the navigation station, we're receiving a message from one of the Guardian ships. The image that appeared on their screen was of Sarah Chen, the human woman who had become the unofficial spokesperson for her species. She looked exactly as she had 5 years ago, when she first appeared before the Hegemony Council. But Valora now understood that this was just one of countless forms she could take. Thank you for your help with the mining worlds, Sarah said with a warm smile. Your people handled that situation exactly as we hoped you would. You could have stopped it much faster, Valora pointed out. Yes, but then we would have been solving the problem for you instead of with you. The goal is not to create a galaxy that depends on human protection, but one that can protect itself. Valora nodded. This was perhaps the most remarkable thing about humanity's transformation. They had gained the power of gods, but retained the wisdom to use that power sparingly. What happens next? She asked. Sarah's form flickered. showing glimpses of the quantum realm where humanity now existed. Next, we keep growing. We keep learning. We keep exploring the universe and meeting new species who might want to join our community of free worlds. And if someone threatens that community, Sarah's smile became something older and more determined, carrying echoes of every human who had ever stood up to a bully or fought against injustice. Then they will discover why the cosmos shudders when humanity is threatened. The transmission ended, leaving Valora alone with her thoughts. Outside her ship, the Guardian vessel was already beginning to fade from normal space, returning to the quantum realm where humans spent most of their time now. But she knew they were still watching, still protecting, still ensuring that the galaxy remained free. The old hegemony had promised order through control. Humanity offered something much more difficult but infinitely more valuable, the chance for every species to find its own way among the stars. As her ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying cargo and hope to the next system, Valora smiled. The cosmos no longer shuddered in fear of humanity. It sang with the joy of freedom they had made possible.